Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about mouse control and sensitivity. I think this is probably the most important aspect of Fortnite and probably one of the hardest to learn. Build-in and edit-in and piece control, all that is more like mechanics, and aim-in is something that will take a long time for you to get better at. So first off, we're going to see a little display here on the screen that shows the three different types of aim-in. We have palm grip, claw grip, and fingertip grip. I'll be covering fingertip mouse grip first, and basically that is when only your fingertips are really touching the mouse. Your middle from your knuckle back is off the mouse or just barely touching, and your palm isn't touching at all. Now the pros of fingertip mouse grips is that you have faster mouse clicks, you have faster reaction times, and it works with all sensitivities, whether in your high or low sense. And the cons is that it's a little bit more difficult to click your side buttons. So if you build with your side buttons, this might be something you might want to stay away from, but not saying that it isn't impossible. And it's also pretty difficult to master the control of the mouse when you are on the fingertip grip, just because you're just moving the mouse just with your fingertips, and it might be a little bit more difficult to master. Next, we'll be talking about the palm grip, and this is where your entire hand is on the mouse. So all of your fingers, your palm. It's difficult if your mouse is small and your hands are big. Luckily, I have the Logitech G502, so my mouse is pretty big and most of my fingers fit on it, so it's good for me. So the pros of this is that there's quicker side button clicks. It works well with low sensitivity, and it works well with large motions. So because you have your full hand on it, you have more, almost feels like you can move it back and forth, left and right, and you can do larger motions because your hand is just more on it. Then the fingertip grip feels a little bit weird to do the large motions because it feels like you don't have as much control. So the cons are that you have slower mouse clicks because you have to click down almost your whole finger instead of just your fingertip, and there's slower mouse flicks because you kind of have to bring your whole hand instead of just moving your fingertips. So the final grip is the claw grip. As you can see from the second image here, this is the one where your palm is on the back of the mouse, but your fingers are curled upwards like a claw. The pros of this is that you get the best of both worlds. You get precision and speed like the fingertip and the palm grip have. The cons that it could cause pain in your fingers, especially if you have big hands, because then your fingers are more backwards and it could cause some pain in the fingers. So if that happens, then I highly would not recommend this grip. So the goal of finding your mouse grip is really holding your mouse in a way where you can identify where exactly the crosshair is. So I'll show a picture on the screen now, and basically every mouse has a crosshair, and it's basically where the optical sensor at the bottom of the mouse is located, and then imagine that as like the crosshair. So when you're aiming in Fortnite and other FPS games, that crosshair is matched with the crosshair on your mouse. So that's why you want to find a grip that allows you to identify in your mind where that crosshair is on the mouse. So whether it's the fingertip, the palm grip, the claw grip, or maybe you make up your own grip somehow and you hold it in a different way. So the best way to do that is that you find a grip that allows you to lock in with the idea of where your crosshair is by gripping it in your own style and applying pressure that tells your brain the crosshair of where the crosshair of your mouse is located. So how I do that is that I pressure with my palm down. So I almost bring my palm closer to the bottom of the desk. Because I play in really high sense, I don't need to have my palm off, because one flick to the right, like all the way across my mouse pad, does a 360. That's just my high sense. So I put my palm at the very bottom, and I almost put my knuckles like halfway down the G502, and then I push down on that. So right where my middle finger knuckle is lined up exactly with the optical sensor at the bottom. And then I push down, I push to the right with my pinky, and then I push down with my thumb too. Now I do have two of my buttons on. My mouse buttons are my slots, my shotgun and my SMG slot. I might end up changing that just because I feel like I could have more mouse control if I didn't have to constantly switch back between them, because then I lose some of that pressure that I'm talking about. So I might even change that. This way I'm creating, like if I do change it, I'm creating like a three-way kind of triangulation where the pressure from my middle knuckle, my pinky, and my thumb tell me exactly where the crosshair is inside my mouse, and then I can line that up with the crosshair in game. That's what you should aim for. As well as your mouse grip, you also have to make sure your body is positioned in the proper way in order to master your aim. So you need to be able to replicate your exact body position every single time you hop on Fortnite or any aim trainers or anything like that. This can be, how far away your elbow is, where is it positioned, the angle of where your hand is to your elbow, where your keyboard is positioned, how high up your chair is, or how far back your chair is, your posture when if you're sitting up, slouching down. I recommend sitting up because it's better for aiming, muscle memory, everything like that. And it's also just more comfortable. How high your monitor is, where you're looking on the screen, everything like that really matters. And the pros, how they have it is they have it completely muscle memory, so that when they sit down, they're almost like getting into the zone because they're getting into their their aiming position, everything like that. So I'd find the place that's most comfortable for you. And if you're having trouble getting into that position, what you can do is actually get some tape or something that you can easily rip off your desk and tape down almost where exactly everything is supposed to go. So when you sit down, you can almost get into it, and then eventually that will just become muscle memory. That would be the goal, as well as because when you practice in game, you also want to be practice outside and make sure that you're almost replicating everything. If you ever notice when you're doing aim trainers, and if you've done Kovaaks or anything, you like do for a week, you do aim trainers, you should be doing it for longer than that. But you have one day where it's really, really good, and that's probably because you had a good night's sleep right beforehand, and you're somehow have found yourself in that perfect, comfortable position. And then for all the other ones, you just sit down and go, and you're like, okay, well, I'm just doing average again. So on the topic of sleep, getting good sleep is super important for any type of sports, especially esports and Fortnite and everything like that, because sleep will help you develop your muscle memory quicker. It will speed up your reaction time, and it also avoids drier eyes, which affects your visual registry. So good sleep is very important. So if you stay up till 4 a.m. every night, and you can sleep until 1 or even later, I mean, that's I don't want to. Unless you get 8 hours of sleep, it's fine, is what you should be looking for. But it's important that you also deal with other stuff you are dealing with in your life. So the worst thing you can do is that something happens in your life and it causes your mental health to go down, or it just makes you feel bad, and then you hop on Fortnite and you're trying to play good, and whether it is a form of relaxation or whatever, playing like that when something else is on your mind will only make it worse, because you'll be thinking about that, and then your game performance will go down and it won't help at all. So please deal with whatever is going on before you end up hopping on Fortnite and trying to practice and get better, because if something is lingering in the back of your mind, that will cloud your ability to play to the best of your ability. Basically what I'm saying. Please just take care of yourself outside of the game as well as inside of the game if you want the best results, basically, and be the best player. So last thing about outside of the game is setup limitations. So everyone has their own, like a desk or whatever. I had a friend who played Fortnite on his bed. I have no idea how he did that, but he was actually pretty good. He would literally be laying down, laptop on his stomach, and his mouse pad was his bed, so just a sheet, and he would play Fortnite like that. His sense was stupid high, and that's because he didn't have the mouse pad space. He had a desk, but he just preferred playing on his bed. I don't know how he did it. But anyway, so figure out your setup and how far, how much mouse pad space do you have, and how big desk space do you have, and everything like that. The pros that have slow sense have like, 100-foot long desk. They're playing on like 4 kitchen tables, and their mouse pad is like 30 feet long. Well, that's fine. But if you don't have that, then, lower your sense or raise your sense. So an issue a lot of people have is that when they flick, they find that they're running out of space to flick. And if that's the case, then you are probably forced to either A, get a bigger desk, get a bigger mouse pad, but if those aren't options, then just raise your sense. You will have to relearn some of the muscle memory, but it is better than, hitting your hand off your keyboard or running out of space because you just don't have enough to actually hit the target. So setup limitations are a good reason to change your sense, whether it's lowering or raising it. If you do have the space, then, why not lower it and see what happens? See if it, if your building is still good, and lower it just a bit, and just find like a sense that feels like you're in more control of your mouse. So after finding a sense that is not affected by your setup, stick with this sense. The worst decisions people make, especially early on, is that they're constantly changing their sense after like a week of it. So you develop the muscle memory and you have it like beginner level, and then you're like, okay, I'm not getting instant results. I'm going to immediately switch it over again and keep doing this pattern over and over again, where you keep changing your sense up and down, up and down, up and down, and that just won't help you at all. So stick with the sense for a long period of time, and then see what happens. And if you really, really feel like changing your sense and your shots are just not connecting as well as it was, either go back or go in between from the change. So if you changed it 5%, maybe move it up 2% and see what happens. So the next recommendation I have for mouse control and aim sensitivity is playstyle changes. So slowing down your playstyle to have an emphasis on landing huge shots. That means instead of going for like the 4400 piece control edit clips where you're flicking your mouse all over the screen and then hitting like the 720 flick on this guy or something like that, just slow down and focus more on aiming rather than editing and building. This way, you'll start developing your aim better, and then eventually you can get to the point where you can have that crazy editing speed, building speed, flicking all around the screen, and also have the godlike aim to come with it. So a good way to do this is, playing more angles and focusing more on your opponent instead of, the editing and the building beforehand, and going for a shot by, aiming down your sight and locating them and then flicking to them, or even just slowly tracking to them and hitting your shot. So hitting huge shots are definitely way more important than editing quick and building, because if you can do all that editing and building and you hit them for a 30, the clip doesn't matter. So now we're going to be talking about some aim trainers. So the best aim trainer, in my opinion, is Kovaaks. Now it is something you have to pay for on Steam. I think it's only like $15 though. But almost every pro player in high-level FPS games uses this tool, and they use it for a reason, because not only does it develop your aim, but it also develops your mouse control and your targeting and your tracking, your click time, and your everything like that. It basically does everything outside of the game that you can then transfer inside of the game. So inside or in-game aim trainers are good because you get the recoil of the game, you get the exact resolution, you get the exact crosshair and everything like that. So it's more raw, but developing the mouse control happens usually on the outside of the game. Now there are pros that don't do Kovaaks at all, like Mr. Savage, but it doesn't mean that he might be one of 100 pros that are like tier 1 that do it. But most people have done Kovaaks in the past and either stop doing it once they get to pro level, or they've done it, or they're still doing it now. So aim trainers, Kovaaks is one of them. Find a practice routine, and you can either do an hour-long practice routines, warm-ups before you start, or cooldowns when you're about to go to bed, something like that. And that will give you a huge advantage over those who are just playing the game. Playing the game is good, but if anything you do outside of the game that's extra is better. So, but there are free alternatives if you don't have the money or you just don't want to buy it. I mean, that's okay. There's Aim Labs, which is free, which is similar to Kovaaks. Doesn't have as much as the features that Kovaaks has, but it does have a fair amount. Or you can do Skaavok's aim trainers. I love this one. I'll link the code in the description. I also have a video on it, so I'll link that video too, if you guys would like to check that out. Alright guys, here's the last aspect of practicing your aim and your mouse control. That is, deciding, okay, I'm going to practice my aim on Skaavok and Kovaaks on Aim Labs or whatever you're going to do. But the worst mistake you can do is only focusing on one of the 3 aspects. So we have click timing, which is, locating the guy and then flicking and then click and timing your click to hit their head. Bolts and shotguns, tracking with SMG and ARs. And then we have target switching, which is, one person's gliding and you switch to the guy behind him and then switch to the guy ahead of him or something like that. The target switching is a little bit more of a niche topic or a niche aspect of Fortnite compared to click timing and tracking. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't practice it any less. Because especially in tournaments, getting that knock out of the air or getting the knock on the people rotating late in zone can be the difference between, a big refresh, 1 point where you need to qual, getting siphoned so you're not 150 and you're 200 so you don't get 1 pump, something like that. So it is still a very important aspect of aim where you should practice. If you don't practice it, then it will affect your tracking and your click timing. Because if you think about target switching, you're flicking, you're timing your first shot, click timing, and then you're tracking the rest and then flicking to the next person. So it is still click timing and tracking, just kind of combined into one and using your target switch. So the first tip I can give you is about following through with your aim and with your mouse. So the worst thing you can do is, in my opinion, using your peripheral vision to find the head of the guy. So this is my opponent here, and I'm aiming here. I would use my peripheral vision to find his head and then flick to it. So sure, I could do that, but if you're learning your new mouse sense or whatever, it will more than likely you'll under miss or you'll overshoot, something like that. So that's why it's really important that you look on his head and then bring your mouse to follow. So something like this, you look on his head and then you bring the mouse over. This way you're identifying where you need to aim and then following through with your mouse. So this is very good for learning your sensitivity, your muscle memory, everything like that. And it's great for practicing as well. And we can even see it in many other sports, you know, basketball, hockey, golf. I mean, the hockey, if you take a slap shot, they want you to follow through with your stick or your mouse and your eyes on where the puck should go. So that's how, you know, some of the best players have wicked slap shots that are mad accurate, because they're following through with their entire body. So you can do that too with either your entire arm, your wrist, or whatever. And the final tip, which is just a little one, that for long range fights, I find it's better to focus on your reticle. So you find your reticle at the target and you focus like around the body or the head or whatever. And for short range fights, you focus more on your opponent's head and then bring your mouse to follow. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And this is, you know, just trying to get everyone to get the best aim possible. And sorry for the little lack of uploads. I've been streaming a lot. I've been having a lot of fun streaming this season, streaming my grind to champs, and then after champs I'll be streaming my grind to 20k arena points. That is my goal. If you don't know what my goals are, I made a video on them a bit ago where I talked about, you know, these are my goals for this season. Comment your goals below. So my goals are 20k arena points, a decent placement, and 1,000 subs. That's what I'm aiming for. So that's my goal for this season. So we'll see if I can make that happen. Hopefully I can, but even if I don't, then, you know, it's still worth the try to see if I could. So that's why I haven't been uploading. But on every Sunday, I'm going to do a collection of the funny moments, my deaths, falling to my death, accidentally fireflying myself, stuff like that. Throughout the streams, I'm going to upload them on Sunday. You know, me showing you my dog, stuff like that, and you guys can hopefully get like a little insight into what my Twitch streams are like. And if you enjoy, you know, what you see, you can come check me out. Or, you know, if you don't enjoy it, you can let me know on what you think you would enjoy. So anything can help me out, and, you know, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and yeah, cheers.